These are seismic times for gender relations. Even just 6 months ago, things felt very different between men and women. They feel different now in terms of the way people have been talking about gender, especially women drawing a line over abuse and inequality. But how is this translating to people's lives on the ground? I'm Tim Samuels for the BBC World Service, exploring the changing dynamic between men and women, and how men, in particular, are reacting to this flux. Men whose behaviour has far-reaching consequences. I've been speaking to men and women in Lagos and North Carolina, and now my journey takes me to Delhi, India. A city that, in recent years, has become notorious for attacks against women.
I'm a woman, I live in Delhi, I myself don't feel safe.
He broke into my house, but he's still stalking me. So now the police says that I should keep a gun because I'm eligible for a gun.
Are you going to get a gun?
I think I might. I live alone.
Yet, in what many see as this supremely male-dominated society, some men are saying the pressures on them and abuse against them are not being taken seriously.
Every single thing that you do, every single word you speak, every single act you do in the society, you are judged in a way that if you are not good enough, you're not man enough.
A divorce lawyer felt unable to speak freely.
I feel a little bit threatened, so I have to be very careful. The laws are more in favor of women in India. In the past, they were oppressed in India. Now, the trend has changed.
It seems these are confusing times for men in Delhi. The patriarchy, that all-pervasive male dominance, can no longer be taken for granted. Women have entered the workforce and excelled. With that financial independence has come greater freedom for women to decide what relationships they want and on what terms. But amidst these social changes, together with huge economic shifts India is going through, something dark has stirred in the soul of some men. Every day there are reports of atrocities against girls and women. One that grabbed international attention was the brutal gang rape of Jyoti Singh on a moving bus in Delhi in December 2012 that sparked intense protests for women's safety across the country. With these sorts of headlines in mind, it's surprising to come to Delhi and pick up on a sense that men feel they're the ones who are getting a bad deal. What everyone seems to agree on, though, is that to truly understand gender in India, you have to look at the different ways boys and girls are raised here. Something I wanted to run past the hosts of Fever FM's morning show, Sid and Addy. Is this a good time to be a man?
It's a good time to be a good human being first, I think. You find all kind of people in our society. The times are changing.
What's changing?
The perception. Like, I come from a family with 3 females.
And you're pointing to your earrings and your man bun.
Yeah.
On the top of your head.
Hardly. It all starts from home. So if you're brought up in a good environment, you understand things in a better way. But there are all kind of people in the society. There are people who don't care about women. It's not
Tim,
just in
I think it takes a lot from your upbringing and how you've been brought up. Like, there are families where children are brought up by single parents, and also people who grow up in a very patriarchal society. They've always seen their dads being the hunter-gatherer, be the dominant creature in the family. And that just trickles down through generations. So there's always this whole tussle between you like something from the billboards, then you come back home, it's a very different culture. Your mom's waiting for you to have your meal because you're a boy, and then she'd eat.
Did that happen with you?
My mom still waits. Yeah.
Still?
She still does.
How old are you?
I'm 37. Still waits for me. She'd wait until I'm back.
In India, we live not on food, we live on emotions. Yeah.
And actually, it changes from a kilometer to kilometer. Right?
And we have calls coming, so we will continue this conversation in just a while. Hello.
Hey. Hi, good morning, Sam.
Well, tell me, what are you saying? What's the best or the worst thing about being a man at the moment?
The first thing about being a man, you can go wherever you feel like no one stops you. You can roam around. If you're a man, you can just pick up your bike or vehicle or something. You can go and roam around.
South of the radio station in the House Caste district, Deer Park captures some of the sheer social diversity amongst Delhi's 26 million residents. And the UN estimates Delhi will add another 10 million people by 2030. Wandering around the tranquil grounds in the shadow of a 13th century fort are sophisticated urbanites alongside newer residents of Delhi, drawn from the countryside by the rapacious lure of urbanisation. Couples hold hands, groups of guys meander around.
Are you married then, or
No, not married.
do you feel equal?
Yeah.
Does he ever try and be the dominant man?
I don't know, but I like dominant women.
And are you with one?
She's beautiful.
I love him so much.
A big cuddle you're giving him there.
Bar the odd couple, it's mainly men in the park. As the radio caller hit upon, public spaces are still male domains. Men are free to roam.
So a girl's just walked past in a fairly short
yes.
shorts. And do you like that look on women?
No.
Two guys, one in his early 20s, the other older, are standing on the pathway.
No, I mean, look, this doesn't look nice. This is okay with you guys and your culture, but look, this doesn't work in our country. And he says that if they had done this in the villages, they would have been dead by now.
They would have been dead.
He would have killed. And that's why they get raped, and then people get hold of them and rape them.
Do you think they deserve to be raped if they're wearing these clothes?
Says yes.
Yes, yeah. When you see a girl wearing a short skirt, does it make you feel aggressive?
I feel very angry. If it was a woman from my village or my house, first of all, I'll shout at her, lock her inside the house, and make sure that she is covered.
Why can't a girl wear what she wants to wear? It's her choice.
You know, what do I say? They have the money, they do what they want. So what can I say?
How old are you?
25.
Are you married? Yes. Are there certain rules that you impose on your wife?
Yes, she has to be covered. She should not leave the house. She's at home, she should always be at home.
So she can't leave the house to go out into the village without you being there?
She has to go anywhere, she has to go with me, otherwise she will not go. Men and women can never be equal.
Delhi, like swathes of India, feels like it's playing in fast forward. The country is surging ahead as the fastest growing major economy in the world. Millions of citizens are on the move, from the countryside to the cities. Social orders are being shaken up, and many men just can't keep up.
Men always taught that you have to be success in university, in college, in earning, and it is not possible.
At the Centre for Health and Social Justice, a development NGO in the city, Satish Kumar Singh has been mapping the state of the Indian male.
That is the whole tension in men. No longer women is going to stay in house and only being your wife. So men space is shrinking.
Men have this basic need to provide, but in the current Indian economy, a lot of men can't provide. And that's creating psychological problems.
In India is so many farmers committing suicide because they are not able to handle their provider role. 5 years before, there was a huge number of farmers suiciding when there was a drought area, unable to pay back their loan to the bankers.
So these are farmers whose crops have failed, who've taken out loans they can't pay back.
This is the one issue.
How many suicides are we talking about?
12,000 farmers committing suicide every year.
And you say this economic frustration has also produced aggression.
So men faced lots of problem, no earning. When they visit to the metro cities and see such a prosperous things going on, people have mobile, people have car, and they want to show I am also man. So rape is one thing is increasing due to aggression to prove their manhood.
So
and
men can't feel like men economically are trying to prove their manhood by violence and things like rape.
Yeah. That is the one thing to establish their masculinity. Delhi, which is the most prosperous thing, why the road rage aggression is very high. Many people coming from the called upper class, elite class people have the resources, but they show their power. They are riding in high-speed car. They will be weaker person always beating. So to prove that we are the real man and we have to hold the.
Does the caste system not mean that if you're born within a certain caste, at least you don't have these expectations for success because you know there's only so far you can go?
Caste system also very confused with the class system. So I always trained in my childhood that you cannot show your fear.
Because you came from a warrior caste.
Yeah, warrior caste. Cannot show your pain. I got intercaste married. Then my family kicked me out. Away 15 years from my family. Father was also political person and holding the rifle, pistol, very aggressive person. And particularly in the warrior community, violence is huge celebration.
In this caste, does this celebration of violence continue today?
All this is link. Your caste link with your masculinity.
The sense that Satish outlines that sexual violence stems from men trying to prove power when they have none, or live up to some notions of manhood, for many might be too simplistic, and also negate the role of individual responsibility. And we'll hear from a woman who's been researching the roots of this violence later on. If caste continues, as Satish sees it, to propagate particular notions of masculinity for some men, for others, it still remains a barrier, an immovable prejudice holding them back. Dalits, the lowest caste, who used to be known as untouchables, are meant to be protected from discrimination, but centuries of stratified prejudice hasn't just melted away. At campuses across India, a number of Dalit students have ended up taking their own lives in recent years. On the campus of JNU University in Delhi, I met with two Dalit students, whose friend Krish had taken his own life 3 months earlier.
He was a very sweet person. He was very joyous kind of person.
In any way were you expecting him to take his own life?
I never expected that. A week before he died, he was telling me that he was feeling very isolated and lonely in his department. So I didn't want to believe it in the first instance. But he kept on insisting that like people in his department, in his classroom, there a lot of people are looking at him in a different way. Like they're not speaking to him. But I could not get it out of him. Even today I do not know what was going on. But surely he felt very alienated.
Within his classrooms, he also once told me that maybe do I look like a criminal? Because every time I go to these spaces, I feel like I don't belong.
When you arrive here and did you try and hide your caste?
I never did.
Did you?
Yeah, I did for a long time. We never spoke about our caste.
If you're a Dalit guy, does it make it harder to find a girlfriend at university?
Even our parents will tell you subtly to look for a girlfriend within your own caste, not go beyond that.
But if you see a girl in class and you find her attractive and you want to ask her out for a date, but she's higher caste, would you not do it?
I never tried. I was scared of doing that.
Really?
Yeah. When a Dalit girl rejects you, the hurt is lesser than when a Brahmin girl rejects you.
From the faded red brick 1960s campus to a shishi coffee shop in the centre of Delhi, to explore how another Indian institution influences masculinity, Bollywood. The hit 2013 Bollywood romantic film Ranjana. Not so much boy meets girl, but boy keeps following girl, gets slapped by girl, and relentlessly keeps going until he eventually gets the girl. Perhaps not the vision of romance you want conveyed to the masses when you're a woman living in Delhi, described by some women as the stalking capital of India. In the coffee shop, I met journalist Chinky Sinha.
Bollywood forever has perpetuated this small town romance where the man would follow on the cycle, following till she says yes. Men do not want rejection over here. Besides, I had a stalker issue, which made me come face to face with this strange entitlement of masculinity.
Can you tell me how your stalking began?
Yeah, so my stalker was my intern. He was much younger than me. He was almost 23, and he started writing emails to me to the point he offered me his virginity. Then he broke into my house. Then I went to the court, which was a very telling experience for me because the magistrate, who was a female, told me that, if you can move your country, please do, because there's no solution to this kind of situation, because the Indian anti-stalking laws are pretty bad. It says imprisonment up to 3 years or 7 years, but to prove that, very difficult.
How else did he harass you?
He would call me from strange numbers and he would say things like, I know where your parents live. Obviously, my stalker viewed me as damaged spinster. Yeah. His thing was, how can a woman who's single and in late 30s reject me? Emails, if you look at it, they are the most pronounced masculine, entitled kind of emails. And there's a lot of hatred against women that comes out through his emails. And then he wanted to protect me, saying that I'm a lonely spinster who's damaged.
Has the stalking stopped?
No.
He's still stalking?
He just went to jail last year, and I was in the courtroom where the mother of the boy was my son has a bright future ahead, and if you send him to jail, he will react. But he's still stalking me. He knows everything about me. So now the police says that I should keep a gun because I'm eligible for a gun.
Are you going to get a gun?
I think I might. I live alone, so yeah.
If Bollywood wanted to move away from its traditional machismo fare to reflect the nuances of being an Indian man today, I wonder how on earth a film would turn out based on the man I was off to meet.
I was waiting that someone should listen to me. I called that number 888-498-498, and I started speaking endlessly.
I was subjected to a lot of physical violence, being slapped in the public, spitting on my face, kicked places including private parts.
That I was sexually abused because she was sex maniac. I don't know from where she gets all those new positions. I tried to share with my friends, they used to laugh.
Group therapy has come to Delhi, to a lounge on the 4th floor of a grey estate on the outskirts of the city, where 7 locals sit in a crescent of chairs and couches. Each listens with solemnity and empathy, heads nod in encouraging unison. The group happens to be all male.
I think the way Delhi sees us is as the people who are there to help when nobody's there to help them.
It feels so counterintuitive to see a group of men worrying about their rights in a country which we assume is very much a man's world.
So there has been a discrimination against the male gender right from birth. Any crime happening anywhere in India, I think Indian men start blaming themselves, and it has become almost a guilt in Indian men.
Men in many societies are charged with being the providers, fulfills a sense of purpose. What is it specifically about Indian culture which you think puts extra burdens on men?
We've been taught that you have to protect the name of the family. If you do not do certain things, you are not a man enough. If you don't get a good job, you're not a man enough. You are judged every single thing that you do. You are judged in a way that if you are not good enough, you're not man enough. I got married in 2009, and this was an arranged marriage. I was subjected to so much of mental cruelty that there was a time when I was thinking, why am I even existing in ways, and I filed for divorce. And they got police team to my place one fine morning and got me arrested.
Arrested for what?
So they said that you've been harassing her, there are charges against you, you've asked for dowry. It is a case out of vengeance.
What would be the kind of 3 or 4 main things which you're fighting for?
For us, we are fighting against misandry.
Hatred of men.
It's hatred for men, right?
Yeah. But would you agree that alongside this discrimination against men, there's also huge amounts of discrimination and violence at times against women?
I would say here that in case there's a woman who's a victim, there are number of laws which are protecting them. The media doesn't listen to the man. If a man is raped, The rape law doesn't cover him. That is why you see that the number of male suicide is more than double the number of female suicide. Why are so many suicides happening?
It did seem surreal to be sat in India with its patriarchal traditions, hearing men claim to be victims of legal discrimination. So I arranged to meet Prabtree Chauha, a divorce lawyer, whose services seem to be in serious demand.
It used to be rare in a family to have a divorce, but today it's very common. Every day, a family court is saddled with about 50 to 60 cases of divorce, and we have about 15 family courts in Delhi only.
In some ways, do you see it as a good thing? It's a sign that women aren't prepared to tolerate being unhappy in marriages?
No, I would say to the contrary. Earlier, we were patriarchal society, so laws were made to favor women. They've been misused.
So women are misusing the rights that they had?
Yes.
How so?
Dowry cases, it has been used in the wrong way.
If a husband is the victim of domestic abuse, what protection does he have?
Nothing. There is no statutory enactment in India to help any husband who has been facing domestic abuse except for filing a divorce case on the ground of cruelty.
Do you come across many cases of husbands who've been abused?
Lots of them.
Do you feel sorry for men?
A lot. I think we also need to come up with some legislation to save men. All the laws mostly are in favor of women here.
If a man says that he has been sexually assaulted, is there a criminal case, if a man is raped?
Unfortunately, no. We only have one section where unnatural sex is an offence.
In your profession as a lawyer, do you see women treated equally?
It has come. Last 10 years, I have seen so. They're treated equally with men.
Would your female colleagues agree?
I don't think so.
What would they say?
That women in India have been totally oppressed.
In a strange way, is this a hard time to be a man in India?
Yes, the laws are more in favor of women in India.
Do you find it hard?
I feel a little bit threatened, so I'll be very careful.
What do you feel threatened by?
That if I speak against some woman or something, that can be misused.
So when you're at work, you're very careful about what you say?
Very careful, very, very careful.
The trend might be changing, but in part 2, I'll meet women who say it's change amongst men that can't come soon enough, right back to the way boys are being brought up, and the wisdom of an esteemed yoga guru for men and women.
The documentary is just one of our BBC World Service podcasts. There are many others to choose from. When you've finished listening to this edition, why not try Crowd Science, where we take your questions about life, Earth and the universe to researchers hunting for answers at the frontiers of knowledge.
Emma is possibly our youngest listener at 2 years old. Her dad emailed us on crowdscience@bbc.co.uk to ask whether smartphones and tablets are bad for her eyes.
And to listen to Crowd Science, just search for it wherever you access your podcasts. Now, let's return to the documentary.
What are men thinking might not be everyone's priority at the moment. I'm Tim Samuels for the BBC World Service, and I've been asking that question in Lagos, North Carolina, and now Delhi, because the attitudes and behaviour of men has a profound impact on society, politics, and of course women. Yet, at this pivotal moment, few seem to be exploring what's going on with men, especially in a place like Delhi, where men have traditionally ruled the roost, a city where rapid change rubs up against generational customs.
So just running back to the bedroom in the hotel, and there's a wedding going on, and there's piles of desserts. The woman inside is looking lovely, some fresh fruit. I think I can interrupt the proceedings and delay everyone in the room by trying to grab a word with the groom and his father. Congratulations on the
thank you very much.
On the wedding of your son. You're wearing a kind of cream Nehru suit.
It is very proud moment.
How old is your son?
My son is 29 years old.
Oh.
Now he's working with Barclays Bank.
Very eligible. He must have had lots of women wanting to marry him.
No.
No?
He's a very simple boy. Okay. He was always busy in his studies to make his career. So this was a arranged marriage through newspaper.
Through newspaper?
Newspaper. I inserted an advertisement in the paper. This is age and qualification of my son. We want a bride. Girl should be qualified. She should be working.
And why do you want her to be working?
You should be independent. Tragedy takes place in the family. So if both are earning members, other member can take care of the kids and others.
How many replies did you get to the advert?
Around 200 people replied to my advertisement. I met around 5-10 people. So this girl was qualified.
Yes.
If you want to interact with him, most welcome.
Hello, I'm Tim. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
On your day you have... How did you feel when your father put an advert in the newspaper?
I had faith on my father. He has done everything for me in my life. And he has given me education. So that was the reason I totally had a faith on him. We had 2-3 meetings before the marriage. And we found that we are compatible with each other to spend my whole life, and so this is how it went.
So you've met her 2 or 3 times before today?
Before today, yeah.
Yes, gosh. At this stage, having met her just 3 or 4 times, do you love the woman you're about to marry yet?
Yes, I am in love with her.
Yes?
Yes, I'm in true love with her. You can say love at first sight.
Well, that's good, because it wasn't long after first sight that you agreed to spend the rest of your life with her.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Sometime.
Are you nervous?
A bit, because of the heat outside. So, not really. I'm not nervous right now. I'm excited and a bit anxious,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But at any point did you say, Dad, I want to find my own wife. I don't want an arranged marriage?
No.
She's someone you find attractive as well?
Yeah, true.
What do you find most attractive about her?
She is... excuse me, guys.
Okay.
I have to leave.
On that cliffhanger, we'll leave you to actually go and spend the rest of your life with her.
Thank you.
So Varun is your cousin?
Yes.
Are you single?
Yes, I am.
So you're an engineer, successfully employed. When you do find a man, do you expect everything to be completely equal?
Yes. I am talking about equality in terms of how much we respect each other, how much we love each other, how he treats me. That is most important. That's what I want in a person.
The men that you meet, are they sometimes scared that you are a working woman and successful? Does that scare them?
But they don't show it outwardly. So they sometimes show it in their actions. Like when they scoff at hearing that, okay, a woman can program and code. Most of the country is moving towards equal opportunity for women.
The company that you work at, have you had any comments about being a woman or any sexism?
No. I did an internship at EY, but because of how Delhi is unsafe, but sometimes when the work was more, we used to have to stay till 8. But there was this company stipulation that women are not allowed to stay beyond 8.
How unsafe does Delhi feel to you?
It is unsafe. It is unsafe.
Really?
Yes, it is. I can give you an example. I was coming back from a lab. It was an industrial area, and I did meet a man who came at me with his pants open. So that was horrifying.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He was flashing at you?
Yes. I just ignored him, looked away, and went my own way.
Assaults against women are a stain on Delhi. Her fears are well founded in a city with 6 reported rapes a day. Where, as one woman I met, Lakshmi, said a man threw acid in her face when she declined his offer of marriage. Such was his aggrieved entitlement. To dig deeper into this destructive, vindictive side of the male psyche, I spoke to Madhumita Pandey, a criminology researcher who's interviewed dozens of convicted rapists held in a Delhi jail.
Most of these men, they were not from Delhi. Most of them were coming from rural villages outside of Delhi. They were not very well educated. Some of them had left school at a very young age. Others had not gone at all.
Did many of the guys feel that they had done something wrong?
No, they did not. A lot of them presented themselves as victims. And they did not really see themselves as rapists at all. In fact, their interviews, their narratives reflected a very non-rapist side of themselves. I think there was only one person out of a good 120 people that I spoke to who said that, yes, I shouldn't have done this. But at the same time, there was a clear misunderstanding and misperception of consent. That did they think they had had consensual sex? Well, some of them thought yes. But I think a lot of them misunderstood the fact that if the victim was not really fighting back or was not very clearly saying no, they just thought that she was also keen.
Did you sense there was something about the upbringing of these men, generally from poor rural backgrounds, which may have led them to feel that sense of entitlement or misread the cues around consent?
When you're a boy, when you're a man growing up in India, they develop a sense of entitlement. And it's the family system that breeds this sense of masculinity and male privilege that allows men to think that they have both social and sexual control over women. So I don't think this is just unique to this sample, but definitely that had a very big role to play, the way they grew up. They all had a very set pattern of the way they described the family life. The fathers were the main breadwinners of the family. Mothers were taking care of the house. The food was being cooked by the mother. The sister was assisting the mother. I think for most of these men who had sisters, there was a pressing need to ensure that the sister was married off. And the men in India particularly start conforming to these culturally approved behaviors. So when you have these ideas getting clubbed with the traditional gender roles, it creates this sense of masculinity, which is quite toxic in nature. And in India, this toxic notion of masculinity pretty much goes unchallenged.
Overcoming a damaging sense of hierarchy and entitlement ingrained in the way Indian boys are brought up might take more than a few steps. To see what progress is being made, I headed to a government building, down a narrow corridor crowded with women sitting on benches, to the office of Swati Maliwal, head of the Delhi Commission for Women. Behind her was a board listing her predecessors. I asked how many cases the previous commissioner had dealt with.
She handled only one case during those 3 terms, which I term as sad and in a manner criminal, because we are having like 6 rapes in the capital every day.
So there was one case in 9 years, and since you took over 2 years ago, how many cases have you brought?
So in 1 year, we've been able to handle 12,000 cases. We've received 3.16 lakh calls. We've done 7,500 on-the-spot visits. We've assisted sexual assault victims in 5,500 court hearings. We've done 1,869 counselling sessions, and we've given around 55 recommendations to the government.
How protected are women in Delhi?
I myself don't feel safe, and my mother calls me up at least 3 times in a day just to check, what I've eaten. But I know that she's not asking me what I have eaten. She just wants to find out where am I and what am I doing right now. And they have all reasons to feel scared, because 6 rapes in the capital every day, hundreds of cases of eve teasing, molestation, which are not even reported mostly.
Has it always been the case, or is the situation getting worse?
It's been pretty bad. What is very, very sad is that not much efforts are being done. In 2012, after the Nirbhaya gang rape, a special task force was set up on women's safety, and it was supposed to meet at least 2 times every month, and it meets only 12 times in 3 years. There is a lack of will reflected when actually not much is done to tackle this issue.
So what is it about the male culture in Delhi which seemed to perhaps be more aggressive towards women?
It stems right from the house. A lot of children, when we go to schools, they actually share how, in the home, the curd is not given to that girl and the curd is given to the boy.
So there's a sense of privilege, of being superior. How does that translate into this aggression and this sexual aggression?
What is sexual aggression? It's an expression of the feeling that you're powerful and you're more powerful and you can victimize anybody and you can get away with it. The people here are having a feeling that they can get away with it because the law somewhere fails to deliver justice.
Having talked to a number of men, it seems that the rights that women have are being misused by some women who make either false rape allegations or dowry demands which haven't been placed in order to leverage what they're going to get out of a divorce. Is that something you've come across?
It's very, very wrong. I condemn it. And any woman who's doing that is something, it's very shameful. It should be stopped. That said, please tell me which law has not been misused till now. Each and every law gets misused.
But do you think the law needs to be changed, though, to give men greater protection against false accusations?
I think the law is very clear. The law is that a woman, if she wants to report something, should be able to report it. The implementation of the law is bad. Why is it that that investigation has to take, 9 years, and then after 9 years we get to know that man had not raped?
And do you feel sorry for the men?
Of course, I feel very, very sorry for the man. But as of course the cases are like really, really rare in this society, it is generally the other way around. A proper study needs to be done on it. The women in this country have fought a lot to be able to be so protected in law. There have been women movements. The Domestic Violence Act has come after a women's movement. So let the men create a movement around it and convince people like us.
I mean, do you think it's a confusing time to be a man in Delhi?
I think it's a much more confusing time to be a woman. There are social changes that are happening. Adapt. I can give you an example. I got married and my husband comes from an area which is pretty patriarchal. After marriage, the third or the fourth day, he just passed on his plate to me in an expectation that I will pick it up and I will wash it and clean up. Within that 1 week, I explained to my husband that this will not work. And till date, he's the one, many times, if I'm not available, he's the one who cleans up the entire thing. It's not been an easy journey for him, but he has adapted. Change is happening and the change is for the good. Equality is our right and it has to come. And it has to come from homes.
So you don't take your husband's plates anymore?
No, I take it at times when he's ill or when he is, needing some kind of support. I've learned in a marriage that either you can be right or you can be happy. So I'm learning that over experience. But he doesn't expect it as a matter of his birthright, and I'm grateful for it.
Gender, of course, doesn't have to be an either-or. Men, as well as women, can be subject to abuse, even in Delhi, just as the rights and lives of both can improve together at the same time. It's not a zero-sum game, especially in Delhi, where the norms are in flux. In a city where so many forces intermingle, the modern dash to urbanise alongside age-old traditions and deep-rooted expectations, there are countless ways for men to live and see themselves. But passing through one of the poorer parts of town, where families spill out on top of each other in narrow alleys, I was struck by the experiences of two men I came across, as perhaps indicative of the male experience. In a sparse room, a mid-30s guy drinks tea alongside his three oldest friends.
I feel bad sometimes when I just think about it's not right, it's wrong, what's happening with me.
Does it make you feel more angry? Does it make you feel aggressive? Does it make you depressed?
Yes, I feel very angry sometimes, and that sometimes leads to depression.
The desolation of a man without work, whose primal hunter-gathering is coming up short. After 4 years of unemployment, he's now pinning his hopes on becoming an Uber driver. Just around the corner, another man, the same age, but entirely comfortable in his own skin, revelling in playing the patriarchal role.
The mother-in-law, the mother, the father, within about 20 metres, everyone is living together.
Around 17 with kids. 17 people live together in this. There are 17 of us here. That's my uncle's house. There are 17 of them there. I love living together.
All in these beautiful 4-storey ornate houses with kind of green on this side and peach on the other. What for you is a real man?
As a real man, we live in harmony. We never have a fight together. We manage the family very nicely, and that's the mark for me.
So you live in a house of 17 with 3 brothers, and next door is your uncle with another house of 17. I live on my own in a flat, one person, behind the gate in London. Who do you think's got the better idea?
Are you happy?
हैप्पी वेरी हैप्पी नहीं अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम भी होती है तो ये लोग सपोर्ट करते हैं बेटर देखो मेरी बात सुनो बेटर का मतलब
You may be happy in your way, I'm happy this way.
You're definitely more of a man than me.
असली मर्दों बोलते real man.
real man
ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः
As my time in Delhi neared an end, I was aware how I'd naturally been looking at things through a modern Western prism. That, for something as immense as gender, it was time to seek some Eastern wisdom. To sit down with a renowned Indian yogi and mystic, Sadhguru, who has every inch the flowing grey beard you'd want in a guru.
Delhi is one place where masculinity kind of spills on the street.
How does it spill on the street? Aggression or sexuality or what?
There's too many people who have no way out. So they're a little overt about…
Sexually frustrated?
Yes, in a way, yes. See, in the village, the guy gets married by the time he's 19, 20. Okay, he has a wife and children going, so those things are kind of settled, it's not that bad. But in the city, there's no hope of settling his life. His physical life, his emotional life doesn't get settled.
Do you think this modern life is essentially making us unhappy?
Any change, when it happens too rapidly, a whole lot of people get crushed. Many who don't have the ability to adapt to new situations and create new possibilities for themselves get crushed by that change.
Does something in our spirituality get crushed? Is it being crushed by the modern urban life?
I think people are seeking spiritual process like never before because they feel a little crushed. When I first started teaching 35, 36 years ago, over 80% of the people came because of physical ailments and for relief. Today, only about 12 to 13% of the people come for physical ailments. Rest are all coming seeking, experience something. This is the kind of change that's happened in the society.
Let's take a mythical office worker in Delhi who works long hours, has a long commute, and they came to see you and they say, Sadhguru, I just feel life is a bit meaningless. I'm on a treadmill. What kind of thing do you say to them?
You have to get off the treadmill.
But they say, I've got a mortgage, I've got a family, I've got to keep running.
Almost everybody complains about their work. Some time ago, he's a hotshot CEO. So he comes to me and says, Sadhguru, I can't take it anymore, and he's looking really miserable. The kind of pressures that are on me, just impossible for me. I just look at him and then I raise my hands, both my hands, and say, may you be fired. He says, Sadhguru, what are you doing? I said, you're so miserable doing your job. If you're fired, at least you walk the beach. No, if you're fired also you will be miserable. If somebody else gets your job also you will be miserable. So, the misery is not about the job, you just don't know how to handle your mind, how to handle your body, how to handle your chemistry. You do not know how to handle this human mechanism, that's the whole thing. So my business is to give them the user's manual. Once they know how to handle their mind, emotions and chemistry, they're fine in any given situation.
And the user's manual for you is a combination of yoga, meditation and inner reflection, or I horribly simplified?
It's a very Greenwich Mean Time stuff. I'm saying a human being comes as a whole, you have to address it as a whole. It's wherever you are, whether you're happy or unhappy is not the issue. Just stop for a few moments and look whether this is the direction you want your life to go. What is it that you want out of this life?
But it feels that it's harder than ever to exert control. It feels like we're much more dependent on other people.
But I want to make this clear to you that you are having the best time ever on this planet in terms of conveniences, comforts, everything. But you have learned to whine louder than anybody because you got Facebook.
Would you create a different atmosphere for boys and girls?
No, I think it's very important both learn to be both. That the masculine and feminine in both a man and a woman must be fully nurtured. In the Indian mythological thing, the ultimate man is Shiva. But he is ultimate not because he's super macho. One half of him is woman, the left side is woman, left half of his body is a complete female body, right half is a very masculine body. This is to show only when these two things are fully developed within you, you are a full-fledged man, otherwise you're a little skewed.
So as men, we have to always nurture our feminine side as well.
Of course, see, but you must be conscious that the feminine dimension must be alive.
Delhi, North Carolina and Lagos, three very different cultures in which to explore what's going on with men. At a time when male behaviour is under such scrutiny, some would say long overdue scrutiny. Despite the disparate nature of the three places, I think there are connecting threads that speak to where men and masculinity are at. A privileged strata of men still very much over-dominate at the top, in boardrooms, in political cabinets. In Lagos, in particular, the men at the top of the economic pile seem free to act and speak with impunity.
Is Nigeria a great place to be if you're a man?
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many places in the world do you have a wife? Do you also have a few mistresses around there?
But this sphere of male dominance at the top distracts from the wider plight of men, many of whom are having a tough time of things in an economy that's rife with inequality, job security and traditional professions dying out.
Depressing. It is very, very depressing because it's something at times I cry about. My mom has been the one that's been sponsoring me during my university education. To me, when you're not able to provide for the people that you're supposed to provide for, it makes you, even you lose confidence of a lot of things.
That symbiotic link between a man's self-worth and his primordial breadwinning, still etched into the male psyche.
There was a year I didn't leave the house.
And you were
literally did not leave the house.
You were getting drugs delivered, food when you ate.
Right.
The self-destructiveness that flows from men on their economic downers.
A lot of the times why they stayed messed up all the time is because they're more or less ashamed of themselves because they wasn't fulfilling, they wasn't providing for their kids.
A sense of loss that echoes through the Appalachians, that's key to understanding men. Loss, with twice the intensity of pleasure, keeps you awake at night, that fuels rage and regret. In North Carolina, the losses for men tot up. Income, status, identity, wider belonging, daily purpose, relationships, and health.
If you look at deaths in middle age, more people die of opioids than they do of gunshots or road traffic accidents. Opioids kill more people today than the HIV epidemic ever did.
When men's expectations and entitlements for life aren't being met, when they feel threatened, that destructiveness can turn outwards. The vile assaults in Delhi, mass shootings, a male preserve, death threats over a billboard.
Someone being like, hey, is this Molly Grace? And I'd be like, yes, it is. And they'd be like, I'm going to kill you. I still get them, actually. It was a year this week.
Male anger and frustrations that are ripe for radical politics to harvest. Of course, it's not all woe is man. But there's enough woe out there in these uncertain times that we ignore the disruptive power of masculinity at our peril. If now's a time when men should absolutely be listening to women, it's also a period when we could all be trying to understand men. Perhaps striving for the harmony Sadhguru talks of.
It It is very important that masculine and feminine are present in a society in reasonably equal proportions so that there is that balance and beauty to who we are.
What Men Think is a tonic production for the BBC World Service.
Thank you for listening. There will be more from the documentary podcast soon. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And don't forget, do try our other BBC World Service podcasts too.